Pick the one we have for dinner.
Oh, thank you. I'm a vegetarian.
No.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Backlot Banter movie. My name is Tarkaz Lede. I'm joined by my big fat Greek co-host Tanner Dykstra, and today we're here to talk about the end of a trilogy 20 years in the making, Tanner. My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. God, what a long name. And boy, we have never seen these movies in theaters because one of them came out when we were infants, and one of them came out and no one cared about it. And now My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 is here. It's kind of programmed to the Nun 2. It's a great weekend to go to the cinemas. You can go watch our Nun 2 review, card in the corner. But if you want to talk to us about this movie or what this means for the rest of the franchise, I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something here. You can join our Discord. The link is in the description and while you're down there. Talk about your experience with this series, because we're young enough to where no one our age cares about these movies, but people older than us probably have pretty stark memories, pretty dark, deep, suppressed memories.
Deep-seated memories about My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah, exactly. Tanner, we have seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, and I want you to give me your high-level thoughts on this movie.
So, Tucker, I don't know how we're going to talk about this movie, because we had a very unique experience watching this film, did we not?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would feel the same way about this movie if I watched it again, God forbid.
Sure.
But, like, it's maybe one of the strangest movies I've ever seen, just from a writing and editing and performance standpoint.
Yeah.
Because this is obviously Nia Vardalos, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Vardalos. She is taking the director's chair on this one. Previously, she had only written and starred in and produced, I believe, as well.
Yeah, the other movies, yeah.
But she's actually directing this film, and I had hoped that would mean that this one was much more, personal, maybe. Not that the other films haven't been, but, to a degree where we're maybe closing the chapter on a lot of these characters, on this entire family.
Like Insidious the Red Door was for Patrick Wilson.
But what it really means is that you get a glimpse into how hard it is to make a movie and what it looks like when someone really doesn't know how to make a movie, unfortunately. And I know that sounds mean, but like it's honestly what I think happened with My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3.
Yeah, it is a weirdly constructed movie. We were sitting there watching this family that we've seen in these other movies doing their bits again and returning, and there's some elements that I like and some elements that just feel like they weren't quite executed well. Need another take on that. What's going on with the editing here?
Yeah.
Why did they write this line in this way? What is going on with the sound design and the pacing of these moments that feel like they're geared to having a huge crowd like roaring at every joke, but it's kind of hard to tell where the jokes are or where a line was just flubbed in a way that wasn't intentionally funny, but we're sort of awkwardly giggling at it. And about halfway through the movie, we sort of had this realization that it feels almost like an uncanny Twin Peaks episode where people aren't quite acting in the way that you think they would, and there's certainly comedic value in that, but it's hard to tell how much of that is intentional or just poor writing, poor editing, poor line delivery. And so while I think it is a poorly constructed movie, as someone who has seen the other two movies and frankly didn't enjoy them very much, I found them pretty annoying. I think what this movie does to separate itself from the other ones is where I actually think this is my favorite of the three movies, which is not a particularly high bar for me personally.
Sure.
But I think it feels a little bit more modern. It certainly takes a different angle on the story of these characters than the other two have, and it moves things forward in a semi-interesting way. So, while I don't think it's a good movie on a construction level, on a scripting level, I think there is a good time to be had here if you just want to see what the Portakolos family is up to next.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And I'll lay the groundwork and say that I watched the first two films over the last week or so and enjoyed both of them, actually. The second one to a lesser degree. But I do think that first one is actually a very solidly constructed, very cute rom-com film.
Sure.
But this one, you say that, like, if you just want to, like, have fun and see the Portakolos family again, you should go see this. But, like, here's where I find it difficult, and here's where I find it interesting, maybe, to where we're coming at it versus where a general audience member would come at this film. Because you say, and we all agreed in the theater, that yes, it does feel Lynchy and it feels Twin Peaksy and stuff like that. But, like, we only know that because we're so dialed into
Sure.
like the
Yeah.
film community and knowing what those
Yeah.
things are and knowing what they mean and knowing what like the aesthetic of that
Uh-huh.
is.
Film
But
construction and tone are not the average thoughts going through the average moviegoer's head.
exactly. So if you think about like the general moviegoer, are they picking up on just like the off vibes that come across in the
Yeah.
filmmaking here? Because I mean, I don't want to presume too much, but there was a family sitting in front of us who walked out like 20
They
minutes from
did,
the end of the
yeah,
movie.
yeah, that was really weird.
And I have
There's
to
like
wonder,
4 of
like,
them. They just kept getting up, like, oh, I thought there was one guy going to the bathroom. They just keep
Yeah.
up. Maybe they're all going to the bathroom together for a really long time.
But I have to wonder if the poor qualities of this film
Yeah.
sort of permeate across that like film knowledge
Sure.
line.
Yeah. That is very interesting. It's not something that we'd necessarily be able to answer, but we
Yeah.
certainly felt it. And I felt it from the very beginning when
Yeah.
we're getting the opening credits and it's showing shots of Greek food being made at some sort of
Yes.
family gathering. And I'm like,
Mhm.
looking at you and it's like 720p and
Yeah.
it looks like it's filmed in the like strange lighting of like an infomercial. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And luckily that like filmmaking quality, like literally like the film, that wasn't across the entire movie. It was for whatever reason just those opening shots.
that.
But those weirder elements where clearly there's some element missing that wasn't a level of polish or quality that we'd hoped for from this was missing from a lot of elements of this film. And where I do want to praise this movie, though, and where I think that it does stand out for me as compared to the other two, is I think that the idea of returning to Greece, having this family
100%.
being like sort of tackling their family history and what being from Greece and then being in Greece means to them, that is something that's been like a background element of the other movies, but it's been, the other two were so mired in their present in America and their Greekness is like obtuse and over the top, and it's annoying kind of everyone in their periphery, and they're just dealing with being there and all the problems that come with having those like flamboyant stereotypes in your family. But this film does dial that back a bit, and I think that's maybe why I didn't find it as annoying, because them being in Greece, them being the fish out of water, helped it to feel pretty fresh. And there's this idea that is like kind of took a lot of steps to come up with, which is they're returning to the home village and everyone has moved away and they're trying to pull back people to come home. And how are we going to rebuild this community and connect to the place that our father was from? I'm like, that's a pretty interesting idea. And
Honestly,
seeing that progress across the course of the movie to where at the end, believe it or not, the town comes back to life and everyone's there and having a party and stuff. I'm like, that's a cool idea for a plot of a relatively simple movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it's a good idea, but I wouldn't necessarily say it progresses well, because the progression of it is that hey, mayor of the town, who I quite enjoyed actually. That
Victory.
Yes, they're great. But it's really just like, hey, Victory, mayor of the town. Have you heard from anybody yet? And she's like, no. No.
And then everyone shows up.
And then everyone shows up at the end. So there's not a lot of progression there. It really is just like suddenly Joey Fatone and the other sister who like stayed behind in America show up and get the dad's friends together, which is like another underlying plot thread, a conflict of the film. Yeah, they get those guys together, and they're also like, and all these people decided to show up too.
Sure. Yeah.
So it really does just like, oh, everyone's here now. It's the end of the movie, and let's have a good time.
Sure. Yeah. Are there any elements of this film that you want to drill in on for this review?
I mean, we mentioned just how strange the writing is. I think I think that's what it comes down to for me. Yeah, because like we've seen these actors be not as odd, I guess, in previous films. So I think it has to be the writing and the editing that ultimately comes under.
Well, I also think
direction as well.
The direction is probably really the cornerstone of all of this, because of course this is written and directed and produced by Nia Vardalos, and the fact that she is a new director. I think she's done one other feature before this, which I have no knowledge of otherwise. But it does take a good director to be able to tell you, no, okay, that line wasn't quite right, but if you spin it in this slight way, that's what the character is going for. And so when we're sitting there and Tula's brother is like delivering a weird line and we're just sitting there like, what was that? Like, did you mean to say it that way? I think that comes from an inexperienced director more than anything.
I really think so. And aside from it being Lynchian, as we joked, like it is just kind of like without that intention behind it, it is ultimately just like poorly done.
Mhm.
Like, there are moments where where a dialogue scene is happening, and we will do an insert of an unrelated like side shot and then
Yeah.
cut away from it, and it serves no purpose, and it's just confusing for the audience as to
Mhm.
why we just cut to that for like a second or two. Yeah, there's a lot of instances of that. There's a lot of instances of like cutting off a scene too quickly after a character is done speaking.
True, definitely.
Or
And I think this is my biggest problem with the editing,
Yeah.
leaving too much space at the
Yeah,
end of a
100%.
sentence, which is what I was referencing earlier, where it feels like they're leaving space for a big room of laughing people that just absolutely be howling at this. But in a theater with maybe 10 people, and certainly not full, and not really many laughs. I mean, coming from us, there's a good amount of laughs.
We were probably we were laughing at maybe 80-85% of the runtime of this film. None of it at any of the intentional jokes, and I think that's another writing issue, is that it's a lot of the time hard to tell when a line was supposed to be a joke or not, because all the delivery, it kind of has this same sort of tenor and intention from the actors, which
true.
Again, I think is a direction issue. And I don't want to harp on it too much because, like, Nia Vardalos is, I just looked up. Yeah, she does have another feature called "I Hate Valentine's Day" that came out in 2009.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
She hasn't exactly been
practicing,
keeping that director's knife sharpened. But yeah, I mean, like, to me, it's my least favorite of the trilogy. I think it is just like basically on a fundamental level the most poorly constructed.
That's probably true.
I like the idea of going back to Greece, and I like some of the side characters that we introduce, but like when you put them into a clunky machine that doesn't really know how to operate as a film, I'm just not gonna like it as much, unfortunately.
Let me see if I can really pinpoint on why, other than like concept, this movie worked for me. And maybe that's not even true. Maybe it's kind of just in the same echelon of these movies. I had a more enjoyable experience, I think, watching it with you guys. It being a totally new thing. Obviously, it just releasing yesterday. I think that sort of heightens it a little bit in my mind. I'm not trying to like retroactively catch up with My Big Fat Greek Wedding lore. I'm on the cutting edge. But I don't know. I think that the fact that it is a big, loud movie like the other ones were, and it has, a sense of place in Greece, made it sort of a different kind of charming to me. Where I found charm where I found the other movies kind of abrasive. And it honestly, the weirdness and the Lynchian elements and the editing and the weird line delivery made it an enjoyable theater experience. We walked out of there and we were like, look, that was a lot of fun to sit through. We were able to give it some of our own spin that certainly heightened that fun.
Absolutely.
That was part of our theatrical experience, and the weirdness of the editing and the line delivery and the dialogue contributed to that. We're like, what the fuck is happening here? What is that line? We were quoting some lines while we were watching The Nun 2 afterward, and throughout today that were not meant to be quoted from. Like this line where Ian says, "Do you know the path to the sea?" It's like, that's not a joke. It's not funny. It's just the way that it came out of nowhere, and it's such an oddly like structured sentence. We found it funny. It made that moment enjoyable, and it made a moment from this film memorable to us. We'll see if it stands the test of time. If we're still saying, hey, you know the path to the sea in 5 years, you know something's really gone right with us.
Or horribly wrong.
But I found it enjoyable.
100%. Yeah, I gave it a 1.5 star and a heart on Letterboxd just because, like, I can't lie, I had a good time with it, but if we're doing our jobs here, Tucker, as movie reviewers, as critics, and recommending the film to people, it's not a good movie. So, I hesitate to say, like, don't go see it in theaters, because I love telling people to go see movies in theaters. But, like...
especially, like, smaller budget, independent, like, sort of passion product.
But, like, in the grand scope of romantic movies, rom-coms that came out this year, is towards the bottom of the pile of the ones that I've seen, at least.
Definitely.
But, yeah.
You want to give it a score?
I gave the Nun 2 3.5, so I have to go above the Nun 2.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with 4.
4? Yeah. I enjoyed this movie, and I'm going to go a little bit higher at 4.5.
Okay.
It's not a waste of your time. Nia Vardalos is obviously passionate about this. These movies wouldn't
Absolutely.
keep...
That
Because the
cannot be
second one
understated.
didn't make any money. And
Yeah.
it's yet to be seen if this one makes any money. But
I don't have faith.
I respect a team coming together and just doing something that other people aren't. It's just putting a rom-com out in theaters and having it be this small budget thing. I respect this movie. And I enjoyed sitting through it. But you're right. As a critic, we got to sit here and be like, look, the line delivery is off like 70% of the time. And there's really weird moments of editing and pacing. And the storylines don't all quite wrap up correctly. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? There's way too many characters and it's hard to tell what's happening. But that especially for us, like, stupid, we go to the films every week, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It's refreshing to have a movie that's just weirdly a fun time.
That's just like so much, not ascribing any quality to it, so much different than any other film we've seen this year. Yeah. So that's worth something, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that value is, but it's there.
Yeah, it's worth going like 3/4 of the way down our ranking of this year's movies.
Yeah. Oh, sad. I never smile. What is there to smile about in this?
I love that
bitchable
classic
world,
line from Black Panther. I never breathe.
I never breathe.
T'Challa, breathe, buddy, breathe.
I never breathe.
It's true. He doesn't have any. He does have a sign, actually.
Yeah, it's a lie.
He did breed.
He did breed.
Do you know the path to the sea?
You know where the path to the sea is? Where's the oldest tree in the village?
Is it in the olive grove?
That's Aristotle.
We're just spitballing all our favorite jokes from My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3.
Number 1, the best.